Welcome to subscribe to my channel. After the rebirth, I only do two things. Kill the virtue signaler. Change history. Beck Ye blocked the virtue signaler squad leader outside the door. Let it fend for itself. Outside the door gradually became quiet, and everyone also relaxed. But their gaze towards Beck Ye couldn't conceal the fear. He's usually a very friendly person. How did he suddenly change? Facing everyone's questioning, Beck Ye revealed a brilliant smile. In an instant, he turned into the appearance of a sunny boy. When the sun shines into the cottage, Beck Ye decided to go out alone to survey the surroundings. But the door behind him closed quickly. At this moment, the zombies and the squad leader outside were nowhere to be seen. The yard was empty. Besides the classmates' idle chatter, there was no other sound. Fortunately, I had no intention of going back either. Instead, I was going to do the second thing. He walked alone through the deserted street. People hidden in the dark watched attentively, yet no one dared to make a sound. Wherever Beck Ye passed, nearby zombies were all eliminated. He would briefly pause in front of some zombies. He searched for things from the broken skull. Another wave of zombies was successfully dealt with in a moment. But the noise of the fight attracted another batch of zombies over. Beck Ye rolled his eyes. He muttered to himself that it's really tiring to accomplish this second task. Then he ran forward with large steps based on memories from his past life. Most of the stores along the way were empty. Beck Ye didn't mind. He knew there must be someone in that place. Soon he arrived in front of a store. "Open the door and let me in." The camera in the corner of the wall turned. The focal point aligned with Beck Ye. Beck Ye pretended to be very scared. "I am injured. There is a zombie behind me. Please let me in." As soon as the words fell, the zombie had already caught up from behind. At the same time, the rolling shutter slowly opened. Beck Ye immediately turned around and knocked down the zombie in front. Then Beck Ye swung the wrench towards the zombie behind to slow down its speed. I quickly rushed into the room. The interior of the convenience store was neatly arranged and seemingly untouched. There was no one in sight, but the monitor on the cash register was still on. Beck Ye changed his posture from knocking on the door and menacingly said, "Come out! I've seen you. Hand over the keys to the shutter door immediately." After a few seconds of silence, Beck Ye sighed deeply. "Ah, my wound has reopened. It hurts. Please come and help me." Immediately, there was a sound of rummaging and overturning coming from the cash register. Then a petite figure appeared. She held a bottle of medicine and threw it in front of Beck Ye. Just then, Beck Ye quickly reached out and caught it. What caught the eye was a shy little loli. Hey, little girl. I caught you. Slay the virtue signaler before the arrival of the next day. And more importantly, to save Xiaoyu." Beck Ye clearly remembers his past life when he cut off his arm to survive. Escaping from zombies, they arrived at the city center seeking help, but had a tough journey. Only a small and fragile figure was willing to help them. Because of their kindness, they did not end up dying a bloody death on the streets. But it was precisely because of his kindness that he was too trusting of others in this chaotic world. In the end, he suffered a brutal death. At that moment, he could only hide in a corner, afraid to make a sound. In the following decades, he hated his own inability and weakness. If he had had the courage to rush up at that time, can it bring a glimmer of hope to Xiaoyu? This time I must save him. First, he needs to make the little girl aware. How dark can human nature be on Doomsday? It doesn't matter if they are perceived as evil. After successfully entering the store, Beck Ye first snatched the key to the rolling shutter. Subsequently, he made things difficult for the little girl in every possible way. He even showed multiple times the idea of getting rid of the girl and keeping the resources for himself. The little girl was scared not lightly. But Beck Ye knew this was the fastest way to help her grow. At the same time, in the ballroom across the street, The gang leader unexpectedly held a mobilization meeting. Brothers, the ballroom has drinks and food, but it cannot sustain us for long. So, our next target is to seize the convenience store across the street. Ensure food supply. Don't be afraid, everyone. You've all seen it. A high school student can easily deal with a dozen zombie brothers. Just charge ahead. Don't forget, there's also the sweet-looking Xiaoyu in the convenience store. The boss's encouragement immediately excited everyone. However, 5 minutes later, the hooligans were so scared that their faces twisted. How could the zombies, that looked weak and powerless yesterday, suddenly become so fierce? Is it possible that they didn't fight the same group of students? They had no idea how Beck Ye dealt with the zombies, but it seemed effortless. It all relies on decades of rich combat experience. Precise strikes. Striving to achieve a single kill. They are a bunch of rabble at best, not here to kill zombies, but to feed them accurately. Convenience store on the second floor. Beck Ye is hugging a bucket of instant noodles, dizzy with excitement. One bite leaves a lingering fragrance in the mouth. You should know that in a few years, this thing will be a high-end luxury item. Yet Beck Ye can now enjoy it recklessly. The movement at the window woke Beck Ye up from his food. Turned his head to look. The shattered glass covered the balcony. At the same time, a hand reached in from outside. What exactly caused the death of 8 out of the 9 people in the dance hall within a short period of time? And a weak and silly girl dared to stab the strong man with a knife. A few minutes ago, Xiaoyu, clinging to Beck Ye's arm, begged desperately, finally allowing the strong man to escape the threat of zombies and enter indoors. But after entering, the strong man's attitude suddenly changed. A dispute arose between the two sides. The strong man, relying on his powerful physical fitness, firmly held Beck Ye in check. At this point, Xiaoyu finally couldn't bear to watch any longer. Gathering up courage, she started to resist. The sudden pain made the strong man react immediately. With a swing of his arm, he immediately flung Xiaoyu away. "You damn girl, I'm going to skin you alive." After a dull thud, the burly man fell straight to the ground. Beck Ye stood to the side, panting heavily while leaning on a clothes rack. Fortunately, Xiaoyu helped create an opportunity for herself to counterattack. Xiaoyu's tears were already swirling in her eyes as she looked at the strong man on the ground. "I killed someone. I clearly wanted to save him. Why did he change after coming in?" Beck Ye patted Xiaoyu's shoulder with a somewhat helpless expression. This is a psychological reaction that every normal person will experience. Look at her sad appearance. Beck Ye slowly said, "Don't blame yourself too much, he's not dead yet." "Then, hurry up and save him if he's not dead yet. I've never met anyone as retarded as you. Get lost. I wasted my tuition on you. Go back inside." Beck Ye grabbed the strong man and threw him downstairs directly. Zombies instantly surrounded him. Even immortals would find it difficult to escape. As night fell, Beck Ye finally cleaned up and left the room. Xiaoyu was actually squatting at the door, not leaving. Clearly, from her expression, she was blaming herself for not saving the person. No more explanation was given. He simply said lightly, "This is the end of the world. To survive, one must learn to kill." He then walked straight downstairs. Xiaoyu hurried to catch up. Unexpectedly, just as he took a step, he suddenly fell down. Beck Ye quickly picked him up into his arms. "What's wrong? What's wrong with you?" The person who was cold-faced just moments ago. At this moment, he is extremely anxious. Beck Ye carried Xiaoyu onto the bed. Quickly checked her body. No bruises. She seems to have a fever. While looking for medication, he found medical records and donation records in the medicine box. It seemed to make him realize something. This is perhaps the reason why he always wants to save people no matter what. Beck Ye pondered for a moment. He took out a few dark green seeds from his pocket. "I wonder if this will be effective for his condition." the daft Xiaoyu is lying on the bed, unconscious. And at this moment, the man hesitated for a long time. He took out a few dark green beads from his pocket. At the same time, the zombies on the street seemed to sense something, looking up towards the building one after another. Beck Ye stayed by Xiaoyu's bed all night. When he woke up, he found himself wearing an extra coat he didn't remember putting on. Xiaoyu beside was about to close the door and leave. He seemed to be fine. Beck Ye instantly regained his indifferent attitude. Go prepare a bowl of instant noodles with a sausage for me. By the way, I will tidy up later and get ready to go find your father. I still have a lot of things to do next. It's not safe for Xiaoyu to stay with me. I thought Xiaoyu would be very happy. Surprisingly, he doesn't seem willing. He hesitated for a long time before finally expressing himself. My father had said before, no matter what, we cannot leave here until he comes back. Of course, under the careful guidance of Beck Ye. Xiaoyu accepted it readily and acknowledged it wholeheartedly. At the same time, an armored vehicle zoomed past on the city streets. Delusional zombies trying to block the way. Fragile in front of him like a doll. Inside the convenience store, Beck Ye has packed up the supplies. Having another bowl of instant noodles before setting off. He has already figured out the plan quite well. Wait until the sun rises a little higher. First, go out and take care of the zombies at the gate. Then look for a usable car nearby. Finally, come back to pick up the girl. This plan is perfect. Suddenly, a loud noise behind him made Beck Ye immediately tense up. He quickly opened his arms to protect Xiaoyu in front of him. Earthquake. But when he turned around to look, it turned out that a car had crashed through the rolling shutter door and rushed in. At this moment, a fat person walked out of the driver's seat. He chuckled. Convenience store's fat boss, I've hit the jackpot. Supermarkets in the city have been looted clean. Venturing further out seems to be rewarding. That person is nibbling on a sausage in his mouth and stuffing supplies into the bag in his hand, completely unaware that a utility knife was already held against the neck. Hey, the fat person who barged in earlier has already thrown the zombie outside. I don't mind having one more. Just as the words fell, the fat person competes to grab a handful of snacks and throws it at Beck Ye's face. Seizing the opportunity, while Beck Ye dodges, the fat person grabs the goods and runs away. This obese body is unexpectedly agile. In Beck Ye's eyes, it looks like a super large winter melon flashing past in front of him. Beck Ye is not slow in terms of speed either. That person just entered the driver's seat. Beck Ye has already gotten into the passenger seat, just about to give fat person a pep talk. Xiaoyu's voice suddenly rang out. Don't kill anyone else. Beck Ye narrowed his eyes. Loli's fierce momentum immediately weakened by more than half. My shop was smashed by him. Will there be no one to accompany him when he dies? Only ruthless people can survive in the Doomsday era. The other day, I fed the self-serving class monitor who had harmed me to the zombies. Now I have a knife held to the neck of a fat boy. I'm going to stab him to death in front of Xiaoyu. Just because Fat Boy drove his armored car into the convenience store, while he was looting rampantly. Beck Ye emerged from the darkness. Don't move. Drop your things. The last intruding bug has been thrown out on the road to feed the zombies. I don't mind one more. That person reacted very quickly. Grabbing a handful of snacks, he threw them on Beck Ye's face. He wanted to escape with the supplies in his arms. However, Beck Ye's reach was faster than him. He got into the car with the intention of completely dealing with this guy once and for all. I surrender. But Beck Ye, who was relentless, was about to strike again. Xiaoyu shouted, Stop killing people! Seeing Beck Ye staring at himself, Xiaoyu could only muster the courage to shout, My store was damaged by him. If I die, no one will compensate me. Beck Ye snorted coldly. Then he demanded that fat person compensate with his car. Without waiting for his refusal, he directed Xiaoyu to move the luggage. At this moment, a group of zombies emerged from the street corner. Beck Ye quickly called Xiaoyu to get on the car. With a loud bang, he burst out of the zombie crowd. Beck Ye coldly said, "Listen to me, or I'll stab you to death." Following Beck Ye's request, the car headed towards Pudong Market where Xiaoyu's father was located. The car stopped after moving forward for a while. Looking at the reset fuel gauge, that person screamed instantly, "It's not good. The car is out of gas." Beck Ye was also shocked. Isn't it a death sentence to run out of gas at this time? He immediately cursed Fat Person's ancestors up to the 18th generation. He was about to kill him with a knife. Now that things have come to this, just let me die of overeating. Xiaoyu sitting in the back seat was also scared, cold sweat all over. Suddenly, a zombie stuck to the window. It made him scream directly. The car is already surrounded by zombies. Dragging on would definitely be a dead end. Beck Ye realized he couldn't just sit and wait to die. Suddenly, a knife in the back seat caught his attention. The next second, Beck Ye kicked open the car door. The zombie was still surprised that someone dared to come out. Beck Ye drew his sword from its sheath and split the zombie's head in half on the spot. Little Loli, who was trembling, looked outside. Her own brother, Beck Ye, had an evil smirk on his face. Haha, what a great knife. With such a sharp weapon in hand, ordinary zombies are just asking to die. Under Beck Ye's slash and chop, the crisis just now was immediately resolved. That person is also scared by his fighting power. This guy is way too strong. Xiaoyu didn't expect it either. Beck Ye's skills are unexpectedly impressive. At this moment, Beck Ye asked Fat Person not to come out to help. "I'm scared, you self-obsessed, stay calm. If you don't want to die, listen to me." After the observation just now, Beck Ye found that there were still vehicles around. He asked Fat Person to collect some gasoline. At the same time, he reminded Xiaoyu to stay in the car and not come out. He got out of the car and started chopping zombies without saying a word. Watching Beck Ye's figure, Fat Person hesitated about whether to say something or not. In the end, he backed down. He cautiously told Beck Ye that there was actually another box of oil in the car. "I remembered wrong just now." "What did you just say?" Beck Ye's face immediately turned dark. He walked towards Fat Person while holding a knife. In a post-apocalyptic world, all you need is a packet of instant noodles. It can make a girl help you for free to build a relationship. Beck Ye, who has a large amount of property, is completely unaware that he has been targeted by someone. Just now, Fat Person took the gas can and started refueling the car. Seeing that he was quite knowledgeable, Beck Ye spared his life. Let Fat Person help collect energy dark crystal for himself. Slicing open the zombie's head with one swift motion. Knocked one down right in front of him. So disgusting. I think I'll just stay in the car. Beck Ye is angry and hasn't settled the matter with you yet. Do you want to dine now? Now I slash one, and you dig one. Otherwise, the next slash will be on you. Fat Person gritted his teeth and pulled a shovel out of the car despite feeling nauseous. Whispering there, he said, "Brother Ye, you must protect me. Stupid Fatso talks too much. Hurry up and help me dig." Fat Person imitates others. Very quickly dug up the first energy dark crystal. After a busy period, Beck Ye has already eliminated all the surrounding zombies. He sat on the ground. He only felt that this body was nowhere near as good as the previous life. It's time to enhance the equipment with energy dark crystal to create a future weapon. He turned around to inquire about the situation on the Fat Person's side. "Brother Ye, I have a big harvest here. After digging a few, it was easy. And it seems quite relaxing." Beck Ye let him clean and pack it well. Then he got into the car, ready to check on Xiaoyu's situation. who knew Xiaoyu had actually fainted in the seat. Her face was red. The symptoms of fever appeared again. Beck Ye turned pale with shock and quickly rushed over to him. Damn it, it had to happen at this time. He touched Xiaoyu's forehead and found that it was even more serious than last time. So he looked for medicine while giving water to drink. That person was curious on the side about what happened to your sister. Did she have heat stroke? Mind your own business. Hurry up and drive me. That person asked again if Xiaoyu had heat stroke when she saw her complexion returning to normal. Is she feeling better now? However, Beck Ye directly aimed the knife at him. He angrily shouted, "Isn't it because you lied to me? If anything happens to her, I will make you pay a heavy price." And at this moment, Xiaoyu had already opened her eyes. Can you believe it here? Just one pack of instant noodles. The girl is willing to have a relationship with you willingly. Just now, that person drove to Pudong Market as requested by Beck Ye. The car drove for a while, and then suddenly there was an emergency brake. Beck Ye immediately wanted to cut stupid Fatso on the spot. The fat person hurried over. The road to Pudong Market has been engulfed by a big fire. It's completely unreachable. Xiaoyu, who witnessed the scene, was very worried. How about we take a detour? Beck Ye said let's take a detour. But we must quickly reinforce our equipment. So he asked if there are any electronics stores nearby, or weapon shops. That person suddenly had a flash of inspiration and shouted, "I know!" Then the car made a turn. He said that he knows a blacksmith shop where the owner is his fellow villager. The knife Beck Ye is using was crafted by him. The three of them soon arrived at the blacksmith shop. After scanning around, Beck Ye walked to the front. As usual, I'll kill the zombies, and you collect the beads. I didn't expect Xiaoyu to shout from behind, asking him to wait. I'll help too. You don't need to go back to the car. If you suddenly faint or get bitten by a zombie, I won't save you. Xiaoyu knows, however. The big brother in front of him doesn't seem as fierce as he looks on the surface. He wants to do everything he can to help Beck Ye. The fat person waved the shovel and praised the little sister for being very brave. He said, "I'll dig for pearls, and you can collect them behind me." The three of them started their collaboration this way. Little did they know, there was another pair of eyes watching from a distance, watching Beck Ye kill zombies as easily as cutting vegetables. The tattooed man took off his jacket, revealing a traditional Chinese proverb tattooed on his back. At that moment, one of his men hastily ran in. He was just about to shout, "Big brother," when he was shot in the head. How many times have I said to knock before entering? And at the door, the little stray fish who had managed to escape is now scared witless. The tattooed man asked him what's going on. "Boss, we saw someone across the street killing zombies." "I saw it long ago. No need for you to tell me. I still recognize one of them. He took down many zombies single-handedly." The tattooed man realized that this was a major news. "Reach out and take it." A gorgeously dressed woman was holding a pack of instant noodles. She walked over. The tattooed man threw the instant noodles to his subordinate. "Reward for you, take it and eat. Later, explain it to me in detail." The tattooed man patted the woman's head, indicating that he has been feeling a bit irritable recently. He then continued to enjoy the show across from him. At the same time, he ordered his subordinates to find someone willing to go down and play with them. There will be a hefty reward for anyone who is interested. A creepy man from the end times. In order to get a free nucleic acid test for the girl. He spared no effort to do the dirty work of forcing flowers to bloom, even at the cost of his life. I thought the girl was going to suffer from the evil hands. At this moment, a splash of green rose up. He directly cut it in half with a scream. The creepy man was scared and ran away in all directions. Just now, Beck Ye kicked open the door of the blacksmith's shop. Seeing that there was no one inside but the fire was still burning, he asked Fat Person to bring all the energy dark crystals and help him sharpen the machete. That person was very curious. Aren't we here to exchange for new equipment? Why do we need to sharpen the machete? Beck Ye did not explain much. He urged Fat Person to quickly go get the beads. And at this moment, Beck Ye was already well dressed. Next is the mechanic's first skill, forging technique. He heated up the iron pipe he just picked up. Then he started hammering it with a clanging sound. That person stood behind, staring in astonishment. This young man is really good at forging iron. Beck Ye asked Fat Person to put the energy dark crystal into the container. Under the intense roasting of the fire, the energy dark crystal gradually transformed into a liquid that shimmered with a green ghostly light. That person was very surprised to see that the bead had actually melted. It's so magical. Beck Ye squeezed out fresh blood from his own palm with force. As the fresh blood dripped in, all the liquids became even more boiling. When Beck Ye poured the liquid onto the blade, the green pattern spread across the blade like lightning. Then followed a long forging process. And at this time, the curious little fish outside squatted and wondered what was going on inside. But as soon as they thought of the task given by the boss, they became excited, thinking that as long as they caught Beck Ye, they could go get a free nucleic acid test with instant noodles in hand. It feels like they're going to be in heaven. Time quickly came to the evening. Xiaoyu wiped the sweat off his forehead. He was already prepared for dinner. Completely unaware, a pair of hands were dragging a handkerchief. Just appeared behind. At the same time, Beck Ye inside the blacksmith shop also entered the final stage. Beck Ye said it's just the last step left. Then high voltage current was injected. The whole sword seemed to come alive and emitted a rumbling sound. Done! Beck Ye picked up the battle sword. His eyes suddenly sharpened. The completion of the second stage of sword forging. However, there was no time to be happy. Outside came the sound of a buzzing struggle. At this moment, Xiaoyu was already covered from behind by the hooligan. He even threatened to take her outside to have sexual relations with her. The lecherous man shamelessly kidnapped the girl in broad daylight. He even threatened to take her to have sexual relations. At that moment, Beck Ye rushed out with a knife, catching several people trying to escape. Seeing Xiaoyu being carried on someone's shoulder, Beck Ye's gaze instantly turned fierce. You little scoundrels! Don't even know the seriousness of the situation, Beck Ye threatened, lowering his weapon. Otherwise, I'll kill Xiaoyu. Beck Ye did not make a sound and silently raised his sword. The next second, a stream of emerald sword energy cut through the air, directly killing towards the ruffian in front. He didn't even have time to react. In a scream, he was split in half. A sudden scene that frightened several small fry, causing them to flee in all directions. Beck Ye raised his battle sword again, swinging out the second sword chi. The thug's steel pipe in his hand instantaneously vanished. He was beheaded by Beck Ye in the next second. Quickly put him down. Otherwise, none of us can escape. If you put him down, the gleam of the blade will come at us. And if the mission fails, we won't be able to get a free nucleic acid test. A sword energy burst beside the two of them as they spoke. Watching Beck Ye, who was approaching behind like the god of death, the creepy man had no choice but to flee for his life. But at that moment, that person reminded him from behind that the dangerous brother Ye had zombies with him. Their speed is so fast. It's like they're on steroids. Seeing the increasing number of zombies, Beck Ye found himself in a dilemma. Finally, he made up his mind. He gripped the sword handle tightly and rushed towards the zombies. The green sword energy kept roaring. The zombies seemed as fragile as paper. Watching the scene unfolding before him, that person felt it was too magical. This was completely beyond his understanding. Beck Ye killed zombies while instructing that person to go after the group of people. That person immediately got on the car, stepped on the gas pedal, and rushed towards the creepy man. The two of them quickly got on a bus. That person realized that the other party had planned it all along. and the whole building should be the territory of gangsters. They actually used a bus to block the entrance. At this time, several gangsters holding machetes got off the bus. "Your car is really nice. Thank you for specially sending it over." That person grasped the weapon tightly, ready to strike. A green sword energy flew out from behind him. Two thugs, along with the bus, were cut in half together. That person was amazed as he watched the green lightning constantly jumping on the cut surface. Without being able to say a word, he turned around to see Beck Ye approaching slowly with a sword. "Stop standing there in a daze! Hurry up and follow me to save people," he said, then swung his sword again. The bus, which was over 10 meters long, was abruptly torn in half by the sword energy. However, behind the bus, more hooligans were lurking in the shadows, ready to launch another attack at any moment. The slender and graceful girl in front of me is seeking revenge. She even made a deal with her body and the terrifying mutated zombie creatures for revenge. He only asked for the other party to kill his enemy Beck Ye. Just now, Xiaoyu was taken away by hooligans. Beck Ye carried a new weapon, a single-edged sword, to the meeting. Flying knives shot from the shadows, or scalding Molotov cocktails. Beck Ye easily slew them all. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. The tattooed man finally appeared. It was truly spectacular. He was immediately invited to have a drink and expressed his willingness to cooperate and work together with Beck Ye to achieve great accomplishments. However, Beck Ye couldn't be bothered with him. The tattooed man had to resort to threatening using Xiaoyu. "Let's have a competition. Will your sword be faster, or my gun be faster?" Beck Ye, who was originally silent, suddenly laughed. "Sure. The big project I developed was just lacking someone to help me." The tattooed man also became excited when he heard that. "I knew you were someone who does big things." That person was jumping up and down anxiously on the side. "Are you crazy to challenge so many of them with just the two of us?" But Beck Ye coldly replied, "If you don't want to come, you can roll." That person then retreated further and further away. Beck Ye cast a glance behind him, hoping that the person could carry out his instructions properly. Later, they were led by a few waiters to their territory. "Welcome, welcome. Do we have enough people here? All the young adults within a 15-kilometer radius are here. And I am their leader, Shan Luo." Beck Ye's mouth lifted into a smile. "I didn't expect to meet you here, Shan Luo. I recognize you. Did you know in advance that this zombie catastrophe would break out?" Shan Luo looked surprised when he heard this, exclaiming that he actually knew me and mentioned that I knew about the zombie virus outbreak in advance. "You're right, my mistake. You keenly sensed the spread of the zombie virus, stocked up on supplies and equipment in advance, and even wanted to establish your wandering dragon gang." When these words were spoken, Shan Luo immediately widened his eyes. He only shared this news with a few relatives. "How did you find out?" Beck Ye took out an energy dark crystal. "You are interested in this thing, right?" Shan Luo is in a great mood. Brother Ye's words are right on point. Let's all cut to the chase and get to the main topic. At this point, Shan Luo took out 2 energy dark crystals. Pointing at Beck Ye, he said, "Your advice must be related to this thing." Beck Ye coldly chuckled, worthy of being the boss of the Wandering Dragon Gang. Shan Luo directly pulled out his gun and pointed it at Beck Ye. "Bring me your sword and let me take a look." Beck Ye had just lifted up the sword. Shan Luo pointed the gun at Xiaoyu. "Don't forget that your sister is still here." Beck Ye was very helpless. He had to obediently hand the sword over to Little Salted Fish. Just at the moment she received the sword, she instantly felt extremely heavy. She directly knelt down on the ground. "Boss, this sword is so heavy." At this moment, Shan Luo coldly said, "Start your performance." The originally arrogant Virtue Signaler squad leader has gone mad. It's for revenge. He actually traded with his body and a terrifying mutant in exchange, just hoping that the other party can kill Beck Ye to help him seek revenge. Just now Beck Ye had the thugs prepare the circuit board. At the same time, he introduced the situation of the energy dark crystal while arranging the wires at hand. You said that this thing is adaptable to both metal and flesh. What will happen if you eat it? Beck Ye snorted. Indeed, some people have tried to eat it, but most of them turn into zombies. Sean Liu is still curious about what the rest will turn into. Beck Ye has raised the electric baton, signaling everyone to come closer. He is about to demonstrate the power of the energy dark crystal. The first step is activation. As high-voltage electric current is injected into the energy dark crystal, suddenly, a surge of eerie green electromagnetic pulse erupts around. The electrical box in the distance also experienced a violent explosion. Instantly, the entire hall was plunged into darkness. Sean Liu realized that something was wrong at this moment. But Beck Ye had already felt their sword. Instantly, a flash of green sword light pierced through the darkness. The future boss of the Wandering Dragon Gang fell at this moment. And now Beck Ye has only one thought. They must all be eliminated before you become powerful. When everything quieted down, Beck Ye turned to check on Xiaoyu's condition. I may have long become a butcher, but I cannot bear to let you witness all this. I want you to realize the cruelty of Doomsday, but I don't want you to be deeply involved. Beck Ye touched the girl's face. It's all over for now. Shortly after, Fat Person also walked in. He and Beck Ye had just pretended to argue. In fact, they went to tamper with the power box outside. Beck Ye picked up the weapon dropped by Sean Liu. Pushing Xiaoyu, Beck Ye is about to leave. Suddenly, a wine bottle rang out. It turned out that the prostitute was trembling in the dark. Don't kill me! Sean Liu caught me here. Please spare my life. Beck Ye is not a bloodthirsty person. He asked the prostitute to help find supplies. The four of them left the hall like this. However, one person survived the massacre just now. He struggled to crawl out of the pile of dead bodies. In front of him, beside Sean Liu's body, was an energy dark crystal flashing with green light. Recall what Beck Ye said just now. He swallowed the energy dark crystal directly in order to survive. At this moment, a thunderous sound exploded. His screams happened to be covered up. And Beck Ye, who was preparing to rest, knew nothing about this. The beautiful girl seeks revenge. She actually seduces the mutated zombie with her body to seek revenge together with Beck Ye. Just now, Roxy Lee was leisurely taking a hot bath. However, halfway through, a thug suddenly turned the doorknob and walked into the bathroom. Roxy Lee screamed for the other party to leave. And the hooligan leaned his whole body against the glass, indicating that he wanted to have a deeper conversation with her. Help me, please. Outside is a raging storm. Even if you scream your lungs out, no one will hear you. Unless you want a zombie to come save you. Suddenly the windows in the house shattered. He walked out with a knife. The next moment, an expression of extreme fear appeared on his face. Roxy Lee only had time to hear a string of heart-wrenching screams. When he poked his head out to look outside, I found that the thug who had just tried to force themselves had been killed by a mutated creature full of spikes. And the mutated creature then reached out its powerful claws towards Roxy Lee, who was hiding nearby. Roxy Lee shouted loudly, "You monster! Don't come near me!" The mutated zombie suddenly spoke. "Where is the monster? Where is the monster?" When he looked down and saw himself in the mirror, he instantly knelt down on the ground, wailing incessantly. "No, I am not a monster. I don't know why I turned out this way." Seeing this scene, Roxy Lee couldn't help but be shocked. However, he had never seen this kind of conscious zombie before. "What on earth are you? How did you become like this?" Littleby told Roxy Lee that he used to be human, but turned into this after consuming an energy dark crystal when heavily injured. Roxy Lee listened but only understood half of it. It wasn't until he heard that familiar name, Beck Ye, that Roxy Lee's hatred completely exploded. Regardless of anything, the mutated zombie leaped straight at him. "You mentioned Beck Ye just now. When did you meet him? Where is he?" Wait until I finish listening to the whole story. Roxy Lee's face became even more fierce. Take me to find him now. I want to tear Beck Ye into pieces. Littleby quickly shook his head. The current Beck Ye is too strong. I can't beat him. Do you have any grudges with him? I ended up here all because of him. I have irreconcilable differences with him. Roxy Lee is curious. Littleby can easily defeat creepy guys. Why isn't he a match for Beck Ye? At this moment, Littleby said, Aren't you afraid of me? Roxy Lee let out a creepy laugh. He gently stroked Littleby's dark arm with his hand. In a tempting tone, she said, Don't be afraid. I think you are quite mighty. I think you are very strong. As long as you help me kill Beck Ye, you can ask me to do anything. Littleby is really discovering a new continent. He actually has the chance to have a relationship with such a beautiful lady. He knelt down on the spot, with a mesmerized look, swearing loyalty to Roxy Lee. But the next second, Littleby unexpectedly fell to the ground, clutching his head with both hands, screaming in pain. Roxy Lee on the side was also very nervous. It was hard to find help. Can't afford any mishaps. The night passed, the rain cleared, and the sky was clear. Beck Ye and others are also ready to leave. The three of them walked out of the building carrying large and small bags. That person saw the scene in front of him and couldn't help but let out a loud scream. How did my car become like this? I can't even open the door. Beck Ye observed the cracks on the ground. He knew. Last night's heavy rain could not have caused this situation. The only possible explanation now is that higher-level mutant zombies have appeared. The beautiful girl is seeking revenge. Have to deal with zombies every day. Only to